Good evening. We will call our August 11th Planning Commission meeting to order.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'll call the roll. Shane Banks.
Here.
Mariah Bishop.
Here.
Ralph Carson.
Here.
Philip Jefferson.
Here.
Jihan Hodges.
Here.
Ben Mills.
Here.
Michael Voiland.
Here.
That's 7 members present.
Whoever's present, thank you. Ms. Hodges is not able to be with us in person this evening, but pursuant to our Planning Commission Rules of Procedure, Rule number 3, a member can be allowed to participate fully virtually if we provide a motion and vote in approval of that. Do we have a motion to allow Ms. Hodges to participate virtually?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. A motion and a second to approve.
All right. We have a motion on the floor to allow Ms. Hodges to participate electronically, virtually. I'll call the vote. Shane Banks.
Aye.
Mariah Bishop.
Aye.
Ralph Carson.
Aye.
Philip Jefferson.
Aye.
Ben Mills.
Aye.
Michael Voiland.
Aye.
That's 6 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you so much, Commission. Ms. Hodges, we hope we have you online.
Yes,
please.
thank you for your flexibility and understanding. Thanks.
You are very welcome. That is why we voted on these rules adoptions at that time. Time for our invocation, Mr. Voiland.
Yep. Not a prayer, just a comment. I'd like to simply take a moment to remind my fellow colleagues on the board about the kinds of residential housing options that come before us in the development proposals we review. We've had many single-family home developments in Garner, and there will likely be more. I live in one, a newer one, a subdivision built in 2016 through 2018. And of course, there are multi-unit apartment buildings in town, and there will likely be more. But we always should recognize the need for the sort of housing first labeled about 15 years ago as the missing middle in a book by that very name. It spoke to the need for duplexes, fourplexes, and townhomes that could provide an option between the single-family home and the apartment, and most importantly, along a spectrum of affordability. We are fortunate that our planning staff studies these options. We are also fortunate that our co-chair, Ralph Carson, has served on a group that explores ways to increase housing of this type that is truly affordable. Our town's recent master plan did well in addressing these 3 kinds of housing. Let's always keep them in mind as we make our reviews and decisions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Voiland. Adoption of our agenda. Are there any items that need to be adjusted or changed as it's written?
Not from staff.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there a motion to approve our adoption and adopt our agenda as written?
I'll make the motion to adopt the agenda of
Mr. Carson,
August
thank you.
11th.
Thank you so much, Mr. Carson. We have a motion. We have a second.
I'll second.
Thank you so much, Mr. Banks. We have a motion and a second.
There's a motion on the floor to adopt the agenda. I'll call the vote. Shane Banks.
Aye.
Mariah Bishop.
Aye.
Ralph Carson.
Aye.
Philip Jefferson.
Aye.
Jihan Hodges.
Aye.
Ben Mills.
Aye.
Michael Voiland.
Aye.
The agenda is adopted.
Thank you so much. We've adopted our agenda. Lastly, on our first items are meeting minutes from July 14th. Are there any items that need to be adjusted or revised? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve our July 14th meeting minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the minutes. I'll call the vote. Shane Banks.
Aye.
Mariah Bishop.
Aye.
Ralph Carson.
Aye.
Philip Jefferson.
Aye.
Jihan Hodges.
Aye.
Ben Mills.
Aye.
Michael Voiland.
Aye.
7 ayes. The minutes are approved.
Thank you so much. We've approved our meeting minutes. Now to our old and new business, CZ 25001. Everyone should have a copy of this PowerPoint with you in front of you. I apologize for our technology this evening, but we will go the way that always works.
Good evening, Planning Commission. I'll be presenting tonight's case. It is CZ 25001, also known as Project Cougar. I'll try to refer to page numbers as we go along. Before I get into it, I do want to just remind you that this This project is a little different than other cases you're going to see typically. There's not a lot of details in the case, and that is done for confidentiality reasons with an economic development component. Our economic development director will speak to that in my presentation, but I just want you to think of this first as a Tier 1 rezoning, and we'll go from there. But I just wanted to preface that. So tonight, our applicant is Jeremy Anderson of Thomas & Hutton. The owner is NCTH Holdings, LLC. This is a Tier 1 conditional district rezoning request to rezone approximately 127.98 acres from commercial mixed use, light industrial, and heavy industrial conditional to light industrial C321 conditional. The site is located at 5100 Rayner Road. And again, this is a Tier 1. There is not a site-specific master plan. So on slide 3, for the current zoning, there are 3 zoning districts attached to the parcel already. There's base CMX, which is a mix of general commercial, retail, and service activities. Some of those can be offices and light industrial uses. CMX should have good automobile access and serve those beyond just our town. Light industrial provides for a limited range of low-intensity industrial uses, and those operations are restricted to indoor only. And then the small portion of the site is zoned heavy industrial conditional. Industrial uses are more noxious or offensive in nature in heavy industrial, and those can be inside or outside a building. The particular conditional zoning of that site was adopted in 2000 to allow for a RV dealership. And the limited written conditions on that relate to site layout and design only. Page 4, for context and setting, there's also the Commercial Highway Overlay District, which runs along US 70. So that does cover the northern portion of the site. The CHO provides additional development, design, and landscaping standards, and those are detailed in UDO section 5.14.2. For context, the site is currently vacant. It's generally bounded by South Greenville Parkway, Waterfield Drive, US 70, and Rayner Road. Existing development in the area that's residential includes Camelot and the Reserve at White Oak Apartments on North Greenfield Parkway. There's also Quest Fellowship Church, which is at the corner of Rayner Road and Waterfield Drive. Existing industrial uses and businesses nearby include the Capitol dealership, Papa John's and Domino's distribution centers, Canteen, Pergo, and Mohawk Industries. On slide 5, our framework, the site does fall within 2 designated activity centers. It's within a regional employment center, which is centered on the western side of South Greenfield Parkway. So a majority of the site is located within that activity center. And then a small portion of it is in the transit-oriented development, which is an activity center located at the northeast corner of Auburn-Nightdale Road and US 70. As you can see in the map on your slide there, it's heavily influenced, this part of Garner, by the presence of several regional employment centers because of the great highway access and interstate access. Recent DOT traffic counts from 2024 for that portion of 70 is 45,242 average annual daily trips. I wanted to point out this slide you don't normally see. This is from our comprehensive plan, as you're all used to now, just describing employment areas, that character typology. So while this rezoning request may be light on site and development details, the proposal is motivated by economic development opportunities. This is from page 54 of that Garner Forward Comprehensive Plan that describes the employment areas typology in depth. The character typology and activity center maps also speak to the importance of this area for employment-driven development projects. On slide 7, I'm going to move along to the proposal. The applicant has proposed a list of 25 permitted uses in the light industrial conditional zoning they're requesting. You can see them on the paper slide in front of you. Majority of them are in the commercial, office, retail, and service use category. You'll see a couple are in the industrial, manufacturing, waste, service, and transportation use category as well. All in all, they have limited to 25 out of 44 permitted uses in the LI conditional district. There, one other written condition, number 2 on slide 8, the office uses of this development will be located at the northwest corner of the project parcel. So that's going to be more towards 70 and Greenfield Parkway, that corner. On slide 9, you're going to get kind of a high-level analysis from the TIA. It was conducted January 2025. The calculations were based on 351,000 square feet of general office use. The proposal is going to have 2 new accesses each on South Greenfield Parkway and on Waterfield Drive, so 4 new accesses to the site. The TIA determined there would be 3,460 new one-way average trips generated. You could see the weekday AM peak hours of 434 trips in, 59 trips out, and weekday PM peak hours of 80 trips in and 391 trips out. On slide 9, high-level review here. Staff notes that the applicable plan for Tier 1 rezoning request is typically only the 2023 Garner Forward Comprehensive Plan, as there is no site-specific master plan included with these requests. Without the master plan, it's difficult to evaluate some metrics, but staff can evaluate the proposal based upon their permitted use table and their condition offered. You'll see majority of the site is in the Tier 3 areas to enhance. For the neighborhood meeting, staff identified 123 properties and occupants within the notification radius. The neighborhood meeting was held November 18th of 2024 at the Garner Senior Center. There were 4 people in attendance. You have your full neighborhood meeting information attached in your staff report. On slide 12, I've evaluated the growth framework consistency. We were able to evaluate 4 growth framework criteria, and all 4 of them were strongly consistent. The growth framework criteria were evaluated using the scale below with a considerable finding of strong support, light industrial zoning choice rated favorably, as well as the non-residential building types. Overall, we had strong consistency with the development intensity metrics of the site. Slide 13 is land use and community character consistency. We were able to evaluate 3 criteria, which had an overall mixed support. Support was given for new employment opportunities and not reclassifying activity centers, but a negative rating was given for the lack of mixed uses, not providing a place where people can live, work, shop, and play. You'll see some of their uses allow for work and shop, but no live. So slide 14, overall, in the absence of any strong non-supporting criteria and a strong level of consistency with the plan's growth framework, staff does find an overall finding of consistency at this time. You have the full detail attached in your staff reports. We conducted our public hearing on July 15th at Town Council. There was one question from the council about the TIA regarding the use categories and site layout. No one from the public spoke at that meeting. There was a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Vance to close the public hearing and refer the case to the Planning Commission for consistency review and recommendation. The motion was seconded by Mr. Singleton, Councilmember Singleton, and the motion passed 5-0. We're going to move on to slide 16. There's going to be 2 slides here where Nate Groover, our Economic Development Director, is going to speak to those about the economic development considerations of this project. So I'm going to hand it off to him.
Thank you, Commission members. Appreciate the opportunity to come tonight. Like Thomas mentioned, Project Cougar is an active confidential business recruitment project. We know that it's not typical for y'all to kind of have these opportunities where Not a lot of information is provided, but I can tell you that it's very commonplace in the world of economic development, working under project code names to the confidential reason for the project. So council and staff are operating under non-disclosure agreement. So one of the other reasons why we need to keep things confidential. But council has met with representatives from the company and is generally supportive. This project is a competitive project. So like most projects in economic development, there are multiple locations under consideration. And the economic development department used this as a positive opportunity for the town. And this project allows for the economic development department to meet our goals for job creation and investment. And some of those numbers you can see on slide 17. So a total of 692 jobs created over 5 years, more than 347 million in investment, again, created over 5 years. And then one thing I do want to point out specifically for this project is in the world of economic development, we're trying to create opportunities that pay above the average wage here in Garner. So this project pays $75,000 a year, which exceeds the North Carolina average wage of about $67,000 a year. And again, as Thomas mentioned, this project will be located in the Highway 70 business corridor. Happy to turn things back over to Thomas.
So on page 18 of your slides, you're going to find the draft consistency statement that we have drafted for you. On page 19, you're going to see your 4 options tonight for Planning Commission. You can find it consistent, recommend approval, inconsistent, recommend approval, consistent, recommend denial, or inconsistent and recommend denial. Staff analysis has determined that we would indicate finding of consistent and recommend approval. There is a draft motion to recommend approval on slide 20. And tonight, our next steps, slide 21, you're going to find your findings of plan consistency and your recommendation to approve or deny. And then it will be referred to town council for their findings of reasonableness and the decision to approve or deny the rezoning request. Staff is here to answer questions, myself and Nate, Jeff, and then we have members of the applicant team that are here that can answer questions as well. They don't have a formal presentation. They have one slide that we can share with you, which is the large paper under your PowerPoint. It is a general bubble land use map. It is not part of our official submission, our record, but it's something that they want to share with you. So I will end my presentation. Do you have any questions for me, Nate, applicant?
Thank you, Ms. Rail. Do we have any staff questions at this time? Would you like the applicant to?
Yeah.
Brother, okay. Well, we'd like to hear from our applicant.
This is just for.
Oh, yeah, wait, one question.
This is just for background, okay? What was there previously?
Well, the site is vacant except for, I guess, that one corner that was originally going to be a RV dealership.
I understand it's
yeah, I'm
vacant.
sorry.
It's interesting when you look at it from the air, particularly on Google Maps. It has a very strange pattern to it. You know, what is wooded, what isn't. It almost looks like a golf course. Does it go back in history? Was it a golf course? Nothing like that. Okay. I understand the confidentiality aspect of this. I'm not going to ask who or what. I'm I'm just asking why, and I'll half ask answer my own question. Apparently, the town would be in competition with other locations in other towns, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So the developer wants us in the mix for their decision. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay. So this is a decision before us that we're basically going to say we want to remain in the mix or we don't.
Correct.
Do I have it? Oh, okay. So, given that, I guess I'm answering my question as to why there has to be some confidentiality, because there's other towns who would compete against Garner, and it's important that a certain level of confidentiality remain.
Correct.
Is everything I said correct?
Correct, yes. And to that point, again, like I mentioned, this is very common in the world of economic development. Economic development practitioners understand, obviously, when you're recruiting business, these are very sensitive matters, and the businesses, of course, do everything they can to minimize disruptions, and obviously, disruptions to workforce could be one of them. So that's why it's imperative that these projects, while they're just thinking about it, again, they're thinking about it, they're doing their due diligence, and they're not treating the town of Garner any different than they are any other municipality that they would be working with. So this is commonplace across the board.
Yeah, okay, I appreciate that. Other question is simply, based upon the bigger map that the developer shared, there seems to be a waterway going through that, and I tried to pick up on that when I was looking again at the topography from Google Maps, and I couldn't find anything, at least on Google Maps. Is there or is there not some kind of stream, or be it intermittent or not, running right through that property?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's a blue line stream, but it is to be buffered under the noose rules, correct, Jeff or David? Yeah. So you'll see that dark line through it. There's a tiny little blue line. That's the stream itself and the buffer of the project. So, we don't have a master plan we can evaluate. I think on this, it shows they're going to have potentially one stream crossing, but the stream would be protected and buffered through the site. There's also a utility easement that runs diagonally through the site. There's that small bit of floodplain to the far southwest corner that they would have to stay out anyway. We're not evaluating it on a site basis, but it would be protected as well.
Okay. And maybe the question I should have asked first is that this is simply a request to consolidate everything under light industrial zoning.
Correct. Under one zoning district that, because this is a tier 1, allows them flexibility on where to place things on the site. Just one zoning use was preferred.
Okay, thank you.
Any other
Are we
questions?
going to hear from the applicant
We will.
before asking more? Okay.
Unless you'd like to ask.
I'll just
staff
hold my
questions.
questions until after the applicant speaks.
Okay.
Same.
Right, same. Questions?
I have a couple questions just to, I don't know if I'm allowed to ask this, but are we offering any economic incentives?
We've discussed those. We've not come to like a final agreement yet or anything.
Okay.
Obviously, that has to go before council, so
Yeah.
that's one of the items in discussion.
State and local or just local?
I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay. Well, that's
I
fine.
believe just at this time, just local.
Yeah. Just curious, who offered up condition number 2? I'm just trying to find the reasoning behind that.
So the applicant did, and I believe that was just so they were going to present along 70 more office use than any other of the industrial uses listed. So
Okay.
that was what the town preferred.
All right. That's all the questions I have for now.
I did have, so I'm just trying to understand. So the difference between industrial versus industrial conditional is what exactly?
Yeah. So the site has like base light industrial now, base CMX, and then that heavy industrial conditional. So they want light industrial, but they're conditioning it so they're not getting everything. So they've narrowed the uses
Got
and
it,
then
okay.
given that one condition. So
Okay, right, thanks.
Okay, well, I think that we are ready.
do you
here.
have any questions?
Oh, yeah, Ms. Hodges. Okay.
I don't have any questions right now.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Hodges. So we can hear from our applicant now.
He can stand up and
if
ask,
you would
answer
come
any
forward
questions.
and-
He's not going to have anything to present, but if you have a question or two for him, he might be able to answer. Keep in mind, some things may not be able to be disclosed.
Okay. If you'd like to say anything, please state your name and your address and your affiliation. This is probably the first time we've had this type of.
No, listen. I appreciate the commission's ability to understand the confidential nature of this project, and I think on behalf of the company, first of all, my name is Tim Brent. I run an industrial-focused real estate development company, but I am just representing the company that is looking at this site to relocate a headquarters, and I think that's really important to decipher here and make a point of. They'd be relocating from their current headquarters as well as consolidating several business lines here to Garner, and just some high level, I guess, information that the company's been around for over 70 years, and very much looking forward to potentially integrating into the town of Garner and being here for the next 70 years. And this site is hugely important to the company's growth and get the flexibility and again understand y'all don't see a lot of tier 1 zonings, but the flexibility in this site is an integral part of their long-term growth plan. So that's part of the reason why you're seeing a tier 1 rezoning ask.
So, hearing that, does commission have more questions? Yes, Mr. Carson.
Mr. Brent, I would like to thank you and NCTH for considering Garner for this location. It's a great piece of property, great highway access. Do have a couple questions just in relation to some of these slides. The TIA was based on a calculation of 351,000 square feet of general office. Is that accurate? Because if the TIA was based on that, but you're possibly going to go far above that, is that reasonably accurate?
We actually have our traffic consultant who can chime in probably a little better, a little more professional than I can on that.
Okay.
This very similar question was raised.
Please state your.
Sorry.
Name, address, and affiliation.
Ronald Stevenson with DRMP, 5808 Farrington Place in Raleigh. And our firm did prepare the traffic impact analysis for the development. And as you mentioned, we did consider the site as general office, and the reason, and this is a very similar question that was raised at the public hearing, but it's the general office encompasses a lot of different kinds of developments and office related development. It has a pattern that's higher number of trips coming in the morning and higher number of trips leaving in the afternoon during the peak hour, rush hours. And we think that this is a good estimate that would cover and accommodate the trip patterns that we think are going to be from this particular development. So while there could be some aspects that are a little different, it's a general office category that encompasses different types of use, different types of offices and different types of businesses. And we feel it's going to be a good estimate of the traffic.
Okay. The other question I have for Mr. Brent, it notes that 692 jobs are projected to be created over 5 years. Are those construction-related jobs, or are those employment jobs permanently there on the site?
Those would be permanent employment jobs.
And I do have, I'm supportive of this, but I do have two concerns, and it's not relating to the zoning, but perhaps future site plans. It's noted on here, they're talking about providing 100 feet of storage plus appropriate deceleration and taper in some of these egress and ingress. I would like you to perhaps look at more storage capacity, because we're everything seems to be built to the minimum storage capacity, and that'll hold 4 to 5 vehicles. And considering the roads out there, if they lengthen that a little bit more, I think that would help with perhaps some of the traffic congestion. My other comment was with the 4 new access points to this property, it doesn't show any traffic signals, but perhaps look at that as you flush out your design, that perhaps one on each of those roads might be signalized. That's a lot of traffic coming in and out in peak hours. And I think that would just maybe something to look at when you get to that design point.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's again, Ronald Stevenson with DRMP. The rezoning is one step that we have to go through. We're going to have to go through CDs and driveway permits and those kinds of things that, and when we get to that stage of the process, if there's any concerns about those things, there'll be another opportunity to sort of bring those up if it does come up. Based on what we have now and the traffic we have now, a traffic signal was not identified as needed. And one of the reasons for that, we think, is that the traffic, first of all, having multiple access points is good. It helps with circulation and spreading out the traffic. And then having access on both roads is important as well, because that allows the folks coming in and out of this site to minimize the number of left turns that are made, and that's usually what drives the need for a signal. So, we think at this point, given the number of driveways that we have and the traffic patterns that we're anticipating, that a signal would not be warranted. However, there's still a ways to go with permitting, on this once we get to that stage.
And the last comment, Mr. Brent mentioned that they'd look to be here for another 70 years. We'd like at least a minimum of 100. Welcome to Garner. Come build. And thank you for considering this property.
Any other questions or the staff or the applicant?
Yeah, I have a few. I guess what was the neighborhood consensus? Because looking through here, it doesn't seem like there's too much.
At the neighborhood meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, there were only 4 people that showed up. One neighborhood resident, and the question was traffic related, which again, we went and did the traffic impact analysis ahead of time in order to be able to speak to that. But that was the only question that we had about the development.
Yeah. Okay. And then I know, I guess as far as the environmental impact, I know right now data centers are really big right now. I know we can't say exactly what it is. And I know, it's great that there is good economic, not incentives, but economic just prosperity as far as Garner. What is the potential, I guess, like environmental impact?
Well, I mean, there's obviously environmental impact with every development, but we have taken steps, and Mr. Voland asked the question about the blue line stream. We went and had that delineated. So we've done our due diligence on the site and the natural features of the site. And we always try and work around those to the best of our ability. I think the other point to mention is we will have to come back into the town of Garner for site plan approval, which will have to adhere to all the UDO requirements that go along with a light industrial zoning. And so that, this isn't the be all end all of approving a project. We'll have to adhere, just like everybody else does, to the UDO buffer requirements and such.
And then I know there was a question regarding traffic. Is there any potential to have more like walkability and connectivity to like whether it's the neighborhood or sidewalks, greenways? Is there any way to kind of incorporate that?
I think again that as far as the UDO is concerned, we'll have to adhere to all those requirements when we come in for site plan approval.
None?
None.
Yeah, I think I just have one. It kind of covers in the TIA, but do you expect any hours operation outside of normal business hours, like third shift or anything like that?
Remains to be seen. I think over time we'll have a better understanding of how many business lines will end up on site. Again, the flexibility of this tier 1 rezoning is to try and bring as much economic development and as many jobs to Garner as possible.
Okay. And do you think there'd be, I don't know, a lot of 18-wheelers coming in and out of the site during the day, during operation, or?
I think that it's fair to say there'll be some truck traffic. To go too far beyond exactly what that looks like, it'll be difficult for me to answer right now.
Okay. That's all I have.
I think my question is probably two-part related to environmental impact of the stream and also the traffic, which we've already been, kind of discussed a little bit. You mentioned, one, the Blue Line stream, this might also be I don't really care who answers this question at this stage, whether it's staff or the applicant. This is mostly a question about how we impact that Blue Line stream, which, looking at IMAPs, there are also some eastwardly streams that move from that Blue Line stream in the center of the property towards the east. And then it looks like there's I don't know if it's a natural ponding component in that northeast corner of the CMX zone lot on Rayner Road, that I'm assuming that whatever is draining from the central portion of that stream is draining in that, I don't know, natural or man-made kind of component. I'm not sure with that, if that's not sure. So once one enters the site from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5 entry points, are they then able to maneuver the entire site without having to come back onto Rayner Road or to Greenfield Parkway, or meaning that you mentioned kind of a crossover of the stream. Is that a vehicular crossover of the stream so that we can?
Yeah, eventually. I think the first phase contemplated in this project would remain on the west side of the stream. I think ultimately there will be a crossing of the stream in order to access the eastern portion of the site.
So will that potentially happen when the eastern portion part, phase 2, happens? Not
Correct.
That it would be dormant until an unknown time and both phases are complete.
That's correct. We would probably, like I said, we've done our due diligence. We've had a jurisdictional determination on the stream from DEQ, and so whether we go ahead and permit that crossing with phase 1 or phase 2, we will likely not be occupying the eastern side of the stream in the initial phase of the project.
And so right now there's only a proposal for one crossing on that more southerly side of the site.
That's correct.
Is there potential for a second on the more northern side?
I don't think so. We chose that location because it was the least impactful
To the site?
to the stream.
To the stream. Okay. So perhaps once, majority of traffic enters the site, it could begin to circulate within itself before exiting back onto the main roadways. And the reason I mention that is because of that southeast corner, closest to the residential development, which was what the question was really about in the community meeting.
Understood. Yeah.
So if that happens, then we could begin to, reduce the continuous movement on the main roadway.
Yeah, I
some degree.
think again, part of this flexibility in zoning is to help accommodate what you're talking about, the ability to maneuver on site, and there'll be multiple buildings and business lines, and so being able to be cohesive in the way that those all go together is important to the business.
So though it's hard for us, this is kind of a, I don't know since I've been
Pretend
on
you're
planning
not looking at the map.
that I've not had one like this where I don't know what is happening. I'm assuming that this is going to, whatever this is, will function like a campus, and the cohesiveness of the building form would allow for walkability within the site from one, I'll just say, component to another. I mean, you have a restaurant listed as a use, and there's sales and retail as a use. So I'm assuming that there's not kind of an in and out, in and out, in and out, but perhaps once whoever is there, there's movement pedestrian-like throughout the campus.
Yeah, again, I think the ask in this flexibility for zoning with a company that's making an investment of this size, they're trying to project what this site is going to look like 30, 40, 50 years from now. And so having the flexibility to, potentially have the restaurant on site, I don't know if that'll ever happen, but maybe it will. That's important for them to have that flexibility.
Okay. Perhaps I'm asking a lot of questions that.
Well, and if those uses are on site, they could serve the site and people from outside the site.
Exactly.
If that's what you're
Right.
thinking about.
That reduces the car movement, even from the residential community, and it becomes not only a, whatever this is, it's who knows who lives in the residential community might be working here and could walk to work,
right.
or could walk to the restaurant or to the retail space without having to walk. So that connectability in the neighborhood is important. And the CMX zoning does kind of ask for some transportation connection. So I don't know where that would be future forward about bus rapid transit at some point for this site, on the site. But I know we're not at that point, but I want to bring that up because that also reduces whatever the circulation of movement vehicular is on that site. And if it's an element for a long-term solution for the site, we would like for the community partners to enjoy that being there, because that only helps the business potential for it as well.
Yeah, I can't speak to the BRT, but I can assure you that the company is very invested in their employees and want the best for them. And so if that makes a difference in their employees' lives, I'm sure that's something that they would be interested in hearing about.
We're really, it's really important to Garner, and I hope that it's important to them as well. Please relay that to them on the Planning Commission. Are there any other statements or questions?
Ms. Hodges?
None.
I have a question. Is there any way that we can put like a contingency on the type of, I guess like whatever comes in, as far as like whether we say yes or no? Because I'm like really a little concerned if it's a data center. I don't know, like because
Well,
even though
I would tell you, no. I mean, your consistency statement and your motion are based upon what is presented to you. So you can make a decision how to vote, how you would want based upon what you see here. You have that option. We would prefer the consistency statement and motion be made as presented, and the vote can fall how it does. But we would ask you to consider the case as presented.
Okay, well, for us to be able to have final discussion and final decision-making, is there a motion of any sort for?
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Bowman.
I move that the planning commission accept the consistency statement drafted herein as our own written recommendation regarding the consistency of the request with the town's adopted land use plans, and recommend approval of case number CZ 25001 to the town council.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other last-minute discussion or commentary or that we need to make?
All right, there's a motion on the floor. I'll call the vote. Shane Banks,
Aye.
Mariah Bishop,
Nay.
Ralph Carson,
Aye.
Philip Jefferson,
Aye.
Jihan Hodges,
Aye.
Ben Mills,
Aye.
Michael Voyland.
Aye.
That's 6 ayes, 1 nay. The motion passes.
Okay, we pass our motion. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for taking time this evening with us. I hope that there's positive results. I hope. Thank you. Okay.
I just want to make one more comment. Kind of the unsung heroes, but thanks to the economic development folks for being part of this discussion. You don't get enough credit a lot of times, and since you're here, thank you very much.
Thank you. Since we're getting credit, I want to be sure to let you know how much that means to us. So we appreciate. We don't do it for the credit. We do it for the results, but we appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you. Reports from the planning director. And
Yes. Sorry, I was just looking at one thing.
take your time.
I'll follow up on that. Alrighty. In terms of council action since you last met, mostly annexations. On July 15th, the town annexed the property for the Wilmington Industrial Park, just up the road from the Calabar interchange, back up Wilmington. Also the Tryon Station Apartments, that's the low-income housing tax credit project up on Creech Road and the intersection of future Tryon Road east. Then on the 29th was the council's work session, and I was present there to discuss ZTA package 24001, which will be going to public hearing in September. And that is regarding several residential, some mixed use where residential is involved, implementation type amendments for the comp plan for things that are spoken to about residential and residential mixed use. We're doing some final kind of just QC on that package and seeing if there's anything that we've missed that we want to make sure is in there still for the public hearing, but that'll come before you probably in October. So that's working its way through. Then on August 5th, again, a couple of annexations, one for the Habitat for Humanity subdivision on Creech Road. So several things up in North Garner. And then also the Homestead at Bryan Farms subdivision, which you all had seen for a rezoning recently. ZTA 25001, which was the residential number of units threshold for an SUP, special use permit, where we're looking to exempt those that go through a tier 2 rezoning process from having to also get the special use permit. That was approved by the council on that day on a vote of 3-2. Coming up on Wednesday, we have 3 presentations to our selection panel for the transportation element of the comprehensive plan. We completed the objective review, and the 3 at the top were close enough in their scores that we felt that it warranted in-person discussion with each of them. So that will be taking place on Wednesday, and we hope to be able to make a selection recommendation shortly thereafter. So stay tuned for the transportation plan. And also, I wanted to introduce you to Julian Griffey, who is our person in the audience. He is our recently hired senior planner in Aaron's group. So he works with Aaron and Thomas here primarily. So you'll be seeing him more with some rezonings, but also one of his primary focus areas will be transportation. So I'll be working with him in the first few months to kind of get that process for the transportation plan rewrite off the ground. And then hopefully after some time, he'll be kind of taking the reins and steering it the rest of the way. So we're glad to have him. And then as of today, this gentleman here to my right is now a Planner 2 with the department. So he was promoted from Planner 1 to Planner 2, and we've now posted his position as a Planner 1 to hopefully get that backfilled. Assuming the best for everybody in my department. Once we fill that position, we will actually be fully staffed for the first time in quite a while. So very excited about that, and plenty of applicants coming in. So hopefully Aaron will find a good candidate here in the very near future. And that's all I have.
Congratulations, Thomas.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And welcome aboard.
Welcome to town of Garner. We're the best. No, I guess I can't say that. we're the most congenial group. No, we enjoy what we do, and we are thankful to have you all help filling out our staff. So welcome, and congratulations.
Oh, and then there is one other thing that I will just throw out there, because it has been made, the announcement around to council and everyone. I did challenge staff members a few months ago to see if we could make a nomination for something for Garner to NCAPA, which is the NC chapter of the American Planning Association, for their annual Great Places Award. And they had a category for public art. So there's a lot of stuff happening with public art here recently. Department heads had just come off a little retreat style exercise where we helped paint the crosswalks downtown. So that was fresh on my mind. So Thomas and Cassidy kind of took the bull by the horns and put together a nomination for the town, both from the private perspective and the public perspective of everything that's going on. And we were notified just last week that we are a award recipient this year. So
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Garner, wonderful. Let's keep it up.
That's right.
Always more.
Yep. We spoke to how it's in our comprehensive plan. It's something we look for, and especially with our Tier 2 master plan redevelopments, have some kind of art component. The pool drive, fuel, and retail sales has a mural on the one wall. That's part of that, speaks to that. So, couldn't have done it without Cassidy and Matt Beard helping out from Parks and Rec.
And then lastly, John just sent me a little reminder here. Don't forget and it popped away from me. Yes, the Celebrate Garner on the 28th, which you should have received an invitation for. Hopefully you can make that, and we will hope to see you there, because that's all about our volunteers. And we definitely glad to see that back. Been gone for a few years, but we do appreciate your time and effort because we know you're paid so much, right?
Yes. Yes, we are.
Jeff, just got one question. Backing up to council's passing the SUP revision, you said it was 3-2?
Oh, the zoning text
The
amendment.
zone, yeah. What did they modify that threshold, or how did that threshold stay?
No, it stayed where it was recommended. So it's only for tier 2 rezonings. And then the threshold for whether it's a major or minor modification, if they come back later, that was reduced down to 5%. So that does narrow the scope of holding them. Anybody who does residential as part of their plan, they can't vary that number too much without having to go back through the process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything from Planning Commission?
Yes.
Mr. Boylan.
I stopped in at the VA clinic. It's open.
Yes.
Grand opening, maybe Mr. Hodges knows the exact date, but they said it was a few weeks off. The grand opening of the clinic.
Good evening, Commissioners. The grand opening is going to be Wednesday, August the 20th. And I believe that is a 10:30 ribbon cutting.
Okay. So it's open right now. I went in, looked around. It's gorgeous. They were servicing many veterans there. Also drove around, and as you may recall, if you were on the board at the time, there was questions about access and egress, and just two things. I remember how concerned the homeowners association and the folks on Arbor Green were with leaving it and being able to make a right turn on Arbor Green. The signage that tells people not to do that is lame. There has to be some stronger wording there because it's so easy to make a right turn onto Arbor Green as you leave. Just a suggestion. I'm not sure that's governed by the Department of Transportation, but it's very, very easy to make that right turn. Also, myself, my neighbor, my wife have noticed a pattern. You cannot enter the VA clinic if you are if you're on Rand Road in the right lane going west, you cannot enter. It's a right enter only, right turn only. But what we've seen time and time again is a car will turn into the Rand Road Elementary entrance, make a K-turn, and then try and go in that way. I almost hit someone. It was very close. I almost hit someone doing that little stunt. So I don't know what you can do with signage. The guides are already in the road in terms of how you can get what you can and can't do. But we've seen that happen time and time again. I'm sure the folks at the elementary school are not going to be happy about that either, but it's a thing.
I can speak to that. When I was giving Julian a tour the other day, I was going to make a left from Rand into and noticed I had to go to Rand Elementary. So, yeah. I could see how it would be dangerous.
That's not to speak of some of the 18-wheelers who've tried to do that. And it's not pretty. That's it.
Anyone else? Okay, well, with that being said, then I will call our meeting adjourned.